Mamdani's 3 candidates win, right? And if you see Mamdani's 3 candidates that won and what things they've said, one of the candidates that won said, Vinny, what was the words on what she said?
Is this Darlisa Chevalier?
Wipe my you-know-what with the American flag. This person hates America, period.
So I forgot to get napkins, so I just wiped my hand on the American flag behind me.
Yeah.
Folks, this is who won, okay? Just so you know. This is who won. The person that says, I will wipe my hands with... What is the story that I have 2 of? I'm trying to see which one I got here that's the real one. This is the person that said that, right? Okay. So they win. On The View yesterday, they're having a conversation about what this really means to the Democratic Party, okay? What it really means to the Democratic Party. One of the ladies is trying to tell Joy Behar why this is such a bad thing and how it's going to hurt the Democratic Party. And actually, I don't know if you guys saw this clip or not. She breaks it down very eloquently. Guys, I'm going to send you this clip if you can show it. Joy Behar is watching this girl. I don't know what her name is. It's the conservative one on the show. It's the conservative one on the show that tries to give the argument from the other side, who's not a Trump fan herself, but she tries to give the logical argument on the conservative side. If you can play this clip, this is what Democrats are dealing with right now. She breaks it down in such a crystal clear way. I want to give her credit on this clip here. If you guys got it, you can pull up to it. Vinny, I want you to watch this here. I don't know if you've seen this or not. Go for it, guys.
New Yorkers are not watching Fox constantly, and so and they're not afraid of the term democratic socialism. If I fall down, I want an ambulance. If my house is on fire, bring your hose. You know what I mean?
Okay. So you just talked about these goods and services. You want the police to come. You want the fire department to come. Well, one of your new candidates, Avila Chevalier, who won last night, wants to abolish the police and all prisons. She was asked 4 times, how would you deal with somebody who committed murder then? What is your plan? And she dodged and didn't answer. She tweeted that Obama is evil, Biden is a rapist and a war criminal, and bleep Kamala Harris. These were not people running on an affordability agenda. These were left-wing extremists that were elected last night at the expense of moderate Democrats. So a seat that you guys do need to win if you want to take back the House.
I don't like the way she sounds at all.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
Really? Way to wake
That's
up.
the point, is these candidates that were endorsed by DSA, the Democratic Socialists, were extreme candidates. And I've seen this happen in my party where the extreme right wing takes over and you can't get your party back. I would warn you all, this is very dangerous and it could risk you losing the House.
Obviously, New Yorkers are not.
Very, very well said. Tom, your thoughts on this with what's going on in New York City?
Well, let me, okay. I have been diving into this, and there is a plan that's below the surface. In the same way that USAID was being directed to certain candidates that were on a liberalism, socialism, plank that was being pushed by Soros and others, and USAID was doing that. There is a deeper story there.
All right, guys. A political storm has erupted in New York, and many analysts believe its impact could extend far beyond the city itself. Following a series of Democratic primary victories, several candidates backed by Democratic Socialist organizations captured key races, immediately triggering intense reactions across the political spectrum. Critics quickly pointed to controversial statements previously made by some of these candidates, arguing that their past remarks reflect a dramatic shift away from traditional Democratic politics. Supporters, however, view the results very differently, claiming voters were simply demanding bold solutions to issues like affordability, housing, health care, and economic inequality. The debate soon reached national television, where panelists fiercely disagreed over whether these victories represented healthy political evolution or a warning sign for the Democratic Party's future. One conservative panelist argued that embracing candidates with highly controversial positions on policing, prisons, and other sensitive issues could ultimately damage Democrats in competitive elections, while other commentators insisted that younger voters are increasingly open to progressive ideas once considered politically impossible. As the discussion unfolded, the focus expanded beyond individual candidates and turned into a broader question about the future identity of one of America's 2 major political parties. Was New York simply reflecting local frustrations, or had it become the testing ground for a much larger ideological transformation that could influence national politics in the years ahead? That single question quickly became the center of one of the most heated political conversations in the country.
Now we can see as the people are able to vote, we see the truth. You see what I mean, Vinny? You see the truth. This is what's going on here. When they say defund the police, and when they say these things, the reason she's silent, you can see it in Dallas. They don't want no courts. They don't want no police. They want the Sharia courts, and they want Islamic rule. That's what's coming, guys. What's going on, Pat, is they say, we'll defund the police, and they are trying to get certain groups to vote on the premise of, oh, you being oppressed by the police. They come out, and George Floyd and all this. They are trying to push that on the masses to get them behind the defund the police. What's really coming here is not democratic socialism, but it's one layer deeper. It's Sharia courts. It's what they set up in Dallas. There's a community in Dallas. We all read about it. They said, no, we will be self-ruling. What do you mean self-ruling? What if somebody robs? What if somebody rapes? What if somebody murders? Oh, no, we'll have our own courts. That's what's coming. They want their own courts. It's happening in small pockets of Minneapolis where people in the neighborhood voluntarily solve everything through the Sharia courts with their mosque. That's what's coming, guys. That's what's behind this. And even the liberals on The View are now saying, well, wait. What about this, and this? You have voted for the virus that's going to infect everybody. The Democrats that are followed on these candidates are useful idiots for the wave that's coming.
Adam.
I think the Babylon Bee said it best. I don't know if we can pull that up, Connor, but they said Al-Qaeda wins New York primary. And that was the title of their headline. And,
exactly.
And that's basically what's going on right now, is that if the KKK took over the right side of politics in this country, we would all be freaking out. In my opinion, the far left, they've replaced the progressives. They certainly replaced the liberals. The Democratic Socialist America, what's the difference between them and communists? Here you go, Al-Qaeda wins New York primary. We should be way more at arms of what's going on here with this thing. And there's a lot of people say, listen, I don't pay attention to politics. It's not my thing. Well, here's the thing you're going to realize. Politics is going to pay attention to you. And at some point, they're going to come for you. So in my opinion, this is the number one story in America. SAVE Act is a part of that. But it's the communist Islamist takeover of America. And who's going to control America's future? And at the end of the day, it's MAGA versus DSA. Because, by the way, they polled Democrats and they said, how do you feel about Democrats in Congress? You know their approval rating? +4. They said, how do you feel about Democrats, Socialists of America, DSA? +17. They're running circles around the Democratic establishment party, the Nancy Pelosi's, the Chuck Schumers, the Hakeem Jeffries. They're fossils, they're dinosaurs, and they're being taken over and hijacked by communists. And it's sad to see. And hopefully we do something about it in this country.
Yeah, this is one of the candidates that won. Can you play this clip? I'm glad you guys found this one. Go for it.
And finding that, the system of capitalism and racism and white supremacy, etc., have all.
But here's where the story becomes even more intense. As commentators continued analyzing the election, some guests argued that the controversy went far beyond campaign messaging and reflected deeper ideological changes taking place across the country. During the discussion, several speakers connected the election results to broader concerns about policing, criminal justice, immigration, and the influence of activist movements inside the Democratic coalition. Some participants claimed that proposals such as reducing police funding or restructuring public safety could fundamentally reshape American cities, while others rejected those characterizations and argued that critics were exaggerating progressive policy positions for political advantage. The conversation became increasingly heated as examples from different communities and previous political movements were introduced to support competing arguments. Supporters of the newly elected candidates maintained that voters were responding to rising living costs and frustration with establishment politics, while opponents warned that more ideologically driven candidates could replace traditional Democratic leadership. Throughout the debate, one message remained consistent. Both sides believe these primary victories carry consequences extending far beyond New York. Whether viewed as a grassroots movement demanding reform or as evidence of growing political polarization, the election had suddenly become a national symbol. For millions of Americans following the story, The real question was no longer who had won the primary, but what these victories could ultimately mean for the country's political future.
Islamophobia have all been used,
It's here,
to colonize lands, right?
You've seen in London, it's happening here.
And so this is like a long trajectory.
In
and
New
we're
York
just seeing
City.
the manifestations of that continuation.
This is where?
Right, with
No, I'm saying,
9/11.
this is New York.
Listen,
9/11.
a lot of times when people are asking us to respond about, attack, right? If you look back, like historically, right? A lot of us come from lands that were colonized, lands where wars were being waged, right? A lot of times because of U.S. policy or the policies in Europe. And so
Why'd you leave?
I find that we can connect over that, but then also that the idea that we have to apologize for like a terror attack that like a couple of people did, and then there is no apologies or reparations for genocides and for slavery, etc.
You can pause it right there. She won. And by the way, Hunter Biden, I don't know if you guys are watching Hunter Biden or not. He's a social media sensation right now on Twitter, okay? If there's somebody you wanted to party with when you were younger, Hunter Biden was probably the guy you wanted to party with. A lot different party you would go to than J.D. Vance, if that's how you define success, right? But Hunter Biden has been saying some stuff, and he's sharing some thoughts with Democrats. Hunter Biden wants Democrats to learn extreme lessons from New York City elections. He says, I'm not running for office, but if I were, there are some of the lessons I take away from what happened in New York yesterday. Authenticity is measurable. Voters can smell a focus group from a mile away. Endorsements from the current Democratic leadership now read like warnings. The establishment wing of the party is no longer a sword. It's a question mark. Conviction beats caution. The candidates who said hard things about rent, about who pays for what, about Gaza, they won. The triangulators lost. Cost of living is everything. Everything else is wallpaper. 5. The middle is not a strategy. It's an empty room. Voters reached past the establishment to grab someone who actually believes something.
Yeah,
6,
communism.
Don't fear the base. Court it. The Democrats who ran from their voters lost. The ones who ran toward them won. 7, if you want to lead a party, you have to be willing to fight inside it. Mamdani didn't ask permission. He took the field. The lesson under the lesson, the country is tired of being managed. The people want to be led. Now, agree or disagree, he's talking campaign. Politico comes out with an article on this side saying Democratic Socialists are coming for 2028. DSA National Co-Chair Megan Romer says what DSA represents is a real contrast to Democrats who have run the last couple of elections on fear. You can't run on that. You have to offer an alternative, and it's really important that we be involved. I want to make sure I say the proper English that she used. In that conversation in 2028, it's important that we have somebody saying sensible things. New York victory fuels momentum. The planning follows a major political victory in New York. Mamdani's endorsed candidates Claire Valdez, Brad Lander, and Darilisa Avila Chevalier all won competitive Democratic primaries. Mamdani declared before the election, they asked, who do you want to run in 2028? Then they asked, when does the race for 2028 begin? It starts now. It starts on Tuesday. AOC remains the big question. Representative AOC.
Now pay close attention, because this is where the debate reaches another level. As newly elected candidates began giving interviews and explaining their political beliefs, critics argued that their comments reflected a worldview far different from traditional Democratic politics. Supporters, however, describe these candidates as authentic voices willing to challenge long-standing political institutions and speak directly about issues such as inequality, foreign policy, housing costs, and economic hardship. The conversation intensified further when political figures and commentators began analyzing what these victories might signal for the 2028 election cycle. Some argued that establishment Democrats were losing influence inside their own party, while others believed the election simply demonstrated that voters were rewarding candidates who appeared genuine rather than carefully scripted. Political strategists pointed to shifting voter priorities, saying affordability, rent, and the rising cost of living have become defining issues that could reshape future campaigns. At the same time, opponents warned that embracing increasingly progressive policies could divide moderate voters and create new electoral risk. Regardless of perspective, one reality became difficult to ignore. New York's primary had evolved into a national conversation about leadership, ideology, and the future direction of American politics.
Remains the most prominent potential presidential candidate within the movement. However, Romer says she would have no automatic endorsement. She will have to sell her campaign, and why DSA should throw down behind it. We don't do kingmakers. If it reveals that every chapter is like, we want AOC, we want AOC. There you go. That's where they're at. Adam.
I mean, if you love America and you love the flag and you're a patriot, this should scare the hell out of you. Because not only is it here, it's coming for you. And it's coming to all the cities around you. By the way, have you seen what the DSA platform is? So it's a lot of rhetoric, a lot of words. Have you actually seen what the platform is? Connor, I text that to you. Let me just give you the platform. It's entitled Workers Deserve More, and I'll boil it down to 5 points. Number one, they want to basically change the Constitution and change the balance of power from our checks and balances system to a parliamentary system. Okay, so the number one, they want to change the Constitution. That should shock and alarm you. Number two, of course, like all good communists do, they want to seize the means of production. This is essentially their platform right here. I'll just summarize it for you. Of course, they want to basically expand the role of government and seize the means of production. Number three, of course, open borders, reduce immigration enforcement, abolish ICE. We've seen this. Number four, they basically said no prisons, even for violent criminals, 0 prisons, abolish the police, defund the police. We've seen that. And the coup de grace, we all know this, mandatory to be a part of the DSA. You must hate Israel, and you must very much dislike the Jews, and even more so, you must adapt a pro-Palestine, Gaza-first ideology. That is the DSA in a nutshell. So if that's you, vote for these people. My assumption is Americans are smarter than that, and they will basically root this from its stem.
All right, so we'll see. We'll see what happened, but guess what? I kept telling you guys, I've been saying this for 2 years, and everybody texts me and messages me, you're out of your mind. There will be a socialist candidate for 2028, and they have a shot. They really have a shot. If they keep talking about affordability, and the other side doesn't talk about affordability, and they beat around the bush on how great the market is doing, but not affordability, they're going to have a very real shot, especially if prices increase and you feel what happens in their personal life. So
and this is where everything comes together. As the discussion moved toward the future, attention shifted to the broader platform promoted by democratic socialist organizations and the possibility that similar candidates could compete on an even larger stage in the coming years. Critics argued that proposals involving constitutional reforms, expanded government involvement, immigration policy, criminal justice, and other controversial issues represented a dramatic departure from America's traditional political framework. Supporters countered that meaningful reforms were necessary to address rising living costs and economic inequality affecting millions of Americans. The debate ultimately revealed 2 competing visions for the country's future, one emphasizing structural political change and another defending existing institutions while warning against ideological extremes. Looking ahead to 2028, commentators agreed on at least one point: affordability, economic pressure, and public frustration are likely to remain central issues influencing voters across the nation. Whether these primary victories prove to be an isolated political moment or the beginning of a broader realignment remains uncertain. But one thing is undeniable: the battle over America's political future has already begun, and the choices made in the years ahead could shape the direction of the country for decades to come.